I really enjoy taking walks where I can learn something. The South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority, the Times of Northwest Indiana newspaper, and the Calumet Region Civil War Preservation Project have spearheaded the development of the South Shore Civil War Memorial Trail in Northwest Indiana. The trail is a mix of high and low-tech tools that help us to learn more about the people who fought in our country's bloodiest war. Close to 700,000 people lost their lives in this historic struggle. You may be surprised to know that only one battle of the Civil War took place in Indiana, and that was along the southern border with Kentucky. But Indiana sent more than 200,000 men and boys to fight. This was the second highest percentage of statewide combatants. In 2010, the Times of Northwest Indiana started a project to honor the efforts of participants to coincide with the 150th anniversary of the beginning of the war. Marc Chase is a reporter for the Times and the founder and head of the Calumet Region Civil War Preservation Project, leading gravesite restoration and research efforts.
You don't associate Northwest Indiana and the Chicago area with Civil War too often, but as it turns out, hundreds of men from this area flocked to the banner of the Union cause.
Marc showed me how to get the most of my visit to the trail. On the South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority website, I clicked on the icon that looks like a headstone with a shield embossed on it. This link took me to the home navigation page and allowed me to access the map of the trail, which cites cemeteries in Crown Point, Lowell, Valparaiso, Merrillville, Hammond, and Hebron. Marc and I visited the historic Maplewood Cemetery in Crown Point. The thing that really brought this project to life for me was being able to access biographical information about soldiers buried in the cemetery by clicking on the named cemetery or scanning the QR code. Let's take, for example, the grave of Colonel John Wheeler.
Well, this is the gravesite of Colonel John Wheeler, who commanded the 20th Indiana Infantry at the Battle of Gettysburg, July 1st through 3rd of 1863. It would be the bloodiest battle of America's bloodiest war, and Colonel Wheeler and the 20th Indiana Infantry were right in the middle of it in the Wheatfield area. He was also very good friends with his adjutant, Lieutenant John Luther, who's buried in the Grand Mausoleum right over here. And Lieutenant Luther was actually with the colonel at the time of his death and would have had to remove his body from the battlefield and then rejoin the fighting.
Hundreds of hours of community service have been donated by volunteers, researching historical records and grave sites. Memorials for veterans of other wars also have been dedicated to honor soldiers for their service. Tours, reenactments, and further preservation work is ongoing. If you visit at dusk, you'll also experience another pilot effort, the TAPS project. TAPS plays nightly in this project initiated by area resident Mr. Bill Wellman, himself a veteran of World War II. TAPS was written in 1862 by Union Brigadier General Daniel Butterfield to replace the volley of shots signaling the completion of the burial of that day's dead, and as such, it was used by both armies. The haunting melody is a particularly fitting tribute in cemeteries which are the final resting place of Civil War soldiers.
It's a beautiful song, and the notes of TAPS only last 57 seconds. And it just is something that you just do not forget. It's got a good sound to it, and in the military it means the day is done, and in a funeral it means that man is done.
These efforts remind us that we stand upon the sacrifices of those who believed strongly that a house divided against itself cannot stand. You can access this information through SAVORindiana.com.